Captain Lisa Summers stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Dauntless. The large viewing screen showed the darkness of space, with Neptune's blue sphere in the distance. Her ship was on a routine patrol of the outer solar system, something she had done many times before. "Captain, we're picking up strange energy readings near Neptune," said Eric, her sensor officer. His eyes were fixed on his screen, eyebrows drawn together in confusion. Lisa walked over to his station. "What kind of readings?" "Nothing I've ever seen before. It's massive. And it's moving." The bridge went quiet. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. They had found simple life forms on Mars and Europa, but nothing intelligent. Nothing that built ships. "Show me," Lisa ordered. The main screen changed to show a massive object moving slowly near Neptune. It was sleek and silver, at least 10 times the size of the Dauntless. Its design was like nothing human engineers had ever created. "Is it responding to any of our hails?" Lisa asked. "No, Captain," said Maya, the communications officer. "But I'm detecting signals coming from it. They're not in any language or code we recognize." Lisa took a deep breath. This was first contact. The moment that would change human history forever. "Send the first contact package," she ordered. This was a carefully designed set of mathematical sequences and simple images that scientists had prepared for this exact situation. Minutes passed as the crew waited in tense silence. "Captain, they're responding," Maya said, her voice trembling with excitement. They're sending back their own images and mathematics, and now they're sending something else. I think it's a translation program." Within an hour, the alien ship had sent enough data that the Dauntless's computers could build a rough translation system. The aliens requested a face-to-face meeting. Lisa, following protocols, agreed but suggested they meet in the space between their ships, with small delegations in spacesuits. When Lisa came face-to-face with the aliens, she was shocked. They were tall, with blue skin that seemed to shimmer. They had 4 arms and no hair. Their eyes were large and completely black. "We are representatives of the Galactic Imperial Consortium," the lead alien said through the translation system. "I am High Commander Zix Terra." Lisa introduced herself and her team. They exchanged basic information about their species and civilizations. "Your technology is impressive for such a young species," Zix Terra said. "Especially your faster-than-light communication. Many species take thousands of years to develop such things." Lisa felt a sense of pride, but something in the alien's tone made her uneasy. "The consortium governs 27 spacefaring species across this galaxy," Zix Terra continued. "We bring order and advancement to all. Your world, Earth, will be welcomed as a protectorate. We will guide your development and protect you from dangerous elements in the galaxy." "Protectorate?" Lisa asked. "What exactly does that mean?" "You would answer to consortium rule, of course. Your military would be absorbed into ours. Your resources would be managed for the greater good of the galaxy. In return, you would receive our protection and wisdom." Lisa kept her face neutral, though inside she felt a growing alarm. "That's a generous offer, High Commander. However, I don't have the authority to make such decisions for all of humanity. I must return to Earth with your message." Zix Terra seemed confused by this response but agreed. As the Dauntless headed back to Earth, Lisa recorded her report for Earth's government. "They expect us to simply hand over our independence," she said. "From what I could gather, no species has ever refused. I believe we're about to seriously disappoint them." She looked out at the stars passing by. Humanity had just discovered they weren't alone in the universe, and their first neighbors wanted to rule them. Earth was about to face its greatest challenge. But Lisa smiled slightly. If these aliens thought humans would simply bow down, they were in for a surprise. 6 months passed since Captain Summers brought news of the aliens to Earth. During this time, Earth's governments worked together like never before. They shared technology, resources, and information. They prepared for whatever might come next. Now a large alien ship hovered above New York City. It was 3 times bigger than the ship Captain Summers had met. Its shadow fell over the United Nations building where world leaders waited. Alan Russell stood at the main entrance. As head of Earth intelligence, he had studied all the information they had about these aliens. He watched as a smaller craft left the big ship and landed in the plaza. 7 aliens stepped out. 6 were the blue-skinned, 4-armed beings like the ones from the first meeting. The 7th was different. It was shorter with green skin and 3 eyes that blinked in different patterns. This one wore a red robe with strange symbols. "I am Grand Assessor Cormalic," the green alien said through a translation device hanging from its neck. "I come to determine if humans are ready to join the Galactic Imperial Consortium." Alan stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Alan Russell, your guide during your visit." For the next 5 days, Alan showed the aliens around Earth. He took them to cities, farms, schools, and factories. The aliens asked many questions and seemed confused by the answers. At a high school, Cormalic watched students debate different ideas in a class. "Why do you let young humans argue with each other?" he asked Alan. "On our worlds, young ones only repeat what they are told. We believe learning to think for yourself is important," Alan explained. Cormalic made a strange sound. "This explains much about your species." At a military base, the aliens watched soldiers train. The soldiers split into small groups, each solving problems in different ways. "Your warriors do not follow the same patterns," one blue alien noted. "Each group does something different." "We value creativity in battle," Alan said. "Our soldiers learn to think, not just follow orders." The aliens looked at each other with their large eyes. They seemed worried. On the final day, Alan took them to a research lab where scientists were studying pieces of technology based on what they had learned from scans of the alien ships. "How did you create this?" Cormalic asked, looking at a working model of an alien engine. "We only arrived 6 months ago." "Humans are good at figuring things out," Alan said simply. That night, while the aliens were in their ship, Alan met with the president and other world leaders. "What do they think of us?" the president asked. Alan showed them a computer tablet. "We hacked into their systems. They're writing reports about Earth. They call us dangerously unpredictable and developing too quickly. They think we need to be controlled." "And what happens next?" asked another leader. "Tomorrow they'll formally invite Earth to join their consortium," Alan explained. "As a protected species, we would have to follow their rules and give them our resources. They expect us to be grateful." The leaders looked at each other. They had already voted on this days ago. The next morning, all the world's important people gathered at the United Nations. Cormalic stood before them. "The Galactic Imperial Consortium has decided to accept Earth as a protected world," the alien announced as if giving a great gift. "Your military will join ours. Your resources will be managed by us. Your technology will be guided by our wisdom. This is a great honor." The president stood up. "Thank you for your offer. Earth has considered it carefully." She paused. "We decline." The room was silent. The aliens stared in shock. No one had ever said no to them before. "That is not possible," Cormalic finally said. "All species join the consortium when invited." "Humans make our own choices," the president said firmly. "And we choose to remain independent." As the aliens left in anger, Alan watched their ship rise into the sky. He knew this wasn't over. The real test was just beginning. 3 weeks after Earth rejected the consortium's offer, strange lights appeared in the night sky. Hundreds of alien ships took positions around Earth's solar system. They blocked the paths to Mars, Venus, and other planets. The Galactic Imperial Consortium had set up a blockade. "They want to trap us in our own solar system," said President Warren during an emergency meeting with world leaders and top scientists. "They think they can pressure us into joining them." Dr. Karen Phillips studied the images of the alien ships on the large screen. As Earth's best expert on alien languages and behavior, she had spent weeks studying the consortium's messages and movements. "There's something strange about their positions," she said, pointing to the map. "Look at these gaps between their ships. No smart military would leave such big holes in their line." Alan Russell nodded. "You're right. It's almost like they're following a pattern from a book without thinking about it." "That fits with what we've learned about them," Karen said. "The consortium has used the same tactics for thousands of years. They don't adapt or change. They just follow old rules." President Warren turned to Commander John Garcia, who led Earth's Space Navy. "Can we get past their blockade?" John studied the map for a long moment. "Yes," he finally said. "If Dr. Phillips is right about these gaps, we can slip ships through. But we need to be quick and quiet." "What are you suggesting?" asked the president. "A secret mission," John replied. "One ship with our best people. We could establish a base beyond their blockade, somewhere they don't expect us to go." 2 weeks later, Commander Garcia stood on the bridge of the ship Defiant. It was Earth's newest and fastest ship, painted black to hide in the darkness of space. His crew was small, just 12 men and women, the best Earth had to offer. "All systems ready," said Linda, his second in command. "The alien ships haven't changed their positions in days. They don't think we'd try to leave," John said. "They expect us to sit here and wait until we get hungry or scared." The Defiant moved silently away from Earth, following a path that kept it hidden from the alien sensors. When they reached the gap Dr. Phillips had spotted, they waited for the right moment. "Now," John ordered. The ship's engines fired at full power, pushing them through the gap in seconds. They held their breath, waiting for alarms or pursuit. But nothing happened. The alien ships didn't move. "They didn't see us," Linda said, smiling. "We're through." Over the next 4 months, the Defiant explored space beyond Earth's solar system. They found planets with water and breathable air. Using special equipment, they built a small base on a planet they named Haven. Then they sent a message back to Earth using a secret channel. "Haven is ready," John's message said. "Send more ships." Back on Earth, scientists had been busy. They studied the alien technology and made new engines that could hide from consortium sensors. They built ships in secret underground factories, and they trained people to live on new worlds. One by one, Earth ships slipped past the blockade. Each carried families, soldiers, builders, and farmers, each headed for Haven or other planets John's team had found. By the time the consortium realized what was happening, Earth had already established 17 colonies beyond their blockade. Each colony built farms, factories, and defenses, each prepared for the day when the aliens would discover them. "How long before they find us?" asked one of the colony leaders during a secret meeting. "Not long," Alan Russell answered. "But by then, it will be too late. They expect us to follow rules and give up. But that's not what humans do." He looked out at the stars visible through the window of the Haven base. "We adapt. We find new ways. And soon, they'll learn what happens when they try to cage humanity." 1 year had passed since the Galactic Imperial Consortium placed their blockade around Earth's solar system. For 12 months, the alien ships had stayed in the same positions, watching and waiting. They expected humans to beg for food or medicine. They expected surrender. They were wrong. In her office at the White House, President Olivia Warren prepared for the most important speech of her life. She looked over the notes one last time while her staff set up special broadcasting equipment. "Are we ready?" she asked. Alan Russell nodded. "Our signal will go through their blockade and reach every corner of the galaxy. Every member of the consortium will see it. And our colonies are prepared. All 17 are ready, Madam President." Commander Garcia reports that Haven's defenses are fully operational. The other colonies are also well established. The president took a deep breath. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do." The broadcast began. President Warren sat at her desk, looking calm and confident. "Greetings to the Galactic Imperial Consortium," she said. "1 year ago, you surrounded our solar system with your ships. You thought you could force us to surrender our freedom." She smiled. "I would like to thank you for this opportunity. You have given humanity a chance to test our creativity and determination." The screen changed to show images of a beautiful city with tall buildings and green parks. Humans walked the streets, worked in shops, and played in gardens. "This is Haven City," the president's voice explained. "Our first colony outside the solar system, established 3 months after your blockade began." More images appeared. Farms with rich crops, factories making ships and machines, schools filled with children. "We now have 17 colonies on planets across this part of the galaxy," President Warren continued as the screen showed maps with the locations of each colony. "All built while you were watching our solar system." The screen returned to her face. "We have studied your technology and improved it. We have built ships faster than yours. We have established trade with planets you never bothered to visit." She leaned forward. "Now I have a request. Please remove your ships from our solar system. They are unnecessarily blocking our space lanes and making travel between Earth and Mars inconvenient." In the consortium's main control room, High Commander Zix Terra watched the broadcast with growing horror. Around him, other consortium leaders shouted in different alien languages. "Impossible," one yelled. "No species could bypass our blockade." "Their colonies can't be real," said another. "They must be lying." But the sensors confirmed the truth. Human ships were detected all over the sector. The 17 colonies were real. Somehow, humans had completely defeated the blockade without firing a single shot. "What do we do?" someone asked. Zix Terra slammed his 4 fists on the table. "We cannot allow this. If other species see that the consortium can be defied, our entire empire will collapse." He turned to his generals. "Prepare for war. We will crush these humans and destroy their colonies. We will make an example of them." Back on Earth, the president finished her broadcast. As the cameras turned off, she looked at Alan. "How do you think they'll respond?" she asked. "They only know one way to deal with problems," Alan said. "They'll attack." The president nodded. "We've been preparing for that. Our colonies are hidden and defended. Our ships are faster and more advanced than theirs. It won't be easy," Alan warned. "They outnumber us." "But we outthink them," the president replied. "They fight by following rulebooks thousands of years old. We adapt and create new tactics every day." Across the galaxy, aliens watched recordings of the human broadcast. Species that had lived under consortium rule for generations saw humans openly mock their masters. Many felt something they hadn't felt in centuries: hope. The consortium's response came 3 days later. They declared war on humanity. Their massive fleets began moving toward Earth and searching for the human colonies. The real test of humanity was about to begin. The first major battle between human and Imperial forces took place near Alpha Centauri, the star system closest to Earth. Admiral Peter Henderson stood on the bridge of his ship, the Resolute. Around him, 11 other human ships waited. Their crews were tense but ready. "Enemy ships approaching," said his radar officer. 64 vessels in total. Peter nodded calmly. His fleet was outnumbered more than 5 to 1. But numbers weren't everything. "Are they following standard Imperial formation?" he asked. "Yes, Admiral. They're arranging into their unbreakable diamond pattern, just as our intelligence predicted." On the large screen, Peter watched as the Imperial ships moved slowly into position. Each ship took exactly the same place it would have taken thousands of years ago, following ancient battle rules without question. "Listen to their communications," Peter ordered. His communications officer played the Imperial transmissions through the speakers. The alien captains were sending orders back and forth, planning their attack in detail. "They're using standard frequencies and codes," the officer said. just like in the training simulations. Peter smiled. Now we have them. He turned to his team. Send the false command signal. For weeks, human scientists had studied Imperial communication patterns. They had created a signal that exactly matched those from an Imperial command ship. Now they sent orders that no Imperial captain would question. On the screen, the neat diamond formation of Imperial ships began to break apart. Ships moved in different directions, each following the false orders they believed came from their commanders. Keep broadcasting, Peter said. Let's see how confused we can make them. Soon, the Imperial fleet was in chaos. Ships crashed into each other as they tried to follow impossible orders. 2 exploded in balls of flame. 3 others spun out of control. The Imperial captains finally realized something was wrong. They stopped following the false orders and regrouped into attack waves. But precious time had been lost, and nearly a third of their ships were damaged or destroyed. Here they come, Peter said as the remaining Imperial ships charged forward. The humans were ready. Instead of staying in formation, each human ship moved independently, following tactics they had planned together, but executing them in their own way. No 2 ships did exactly the same thing. The Imperial ships fired in perfect unison, aiming where human ships should have been according to their battle manuals. But the human ships weren't there. They had already moved to new positions. Fire when ready, Peter ordered. Each captain use your best judgment. Human ships attacked from multiple directions. Some fired at Imperial engines. Others targeted weapon systems. Each human captain made decisions without waiting for orders, adapting to the changing battle. The Imperial commanders were lost. Their manuals didn't cover enemies who fought like this. When one tactic failed, they simply tried the next one in their handbook, never changing or adapting. 4 hours later, the battle was over. The entire Imperial fleet had been destroyed or captured. Human forces had lost only 3 ships. Peter looked at the wreckage floating in space. Send word to Earth. Tell them we've won the first battle. His second-in-command looked troubled. They'll send more ships. Bigger ones. Of course they will, Peter agreed. And they'll follow the same tactics, because that's all they know. They'll never understand that their biggest weakness isn't their technology or their numbers. It's their inability to think differently. News of the Imperial defeat spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Imperial rule for centuries were shocked. No one had ever defeated an Imperial fleet before, especially not a smaller force of a primitive species. In his quarters later that night, Peter looked at the stars through his window. This is just the beginning, he said quietly. They still haven't realized what they're really fighting against. Not our ships or our weapons, but the human spirit. The real war was just beginning. As human victories against the Galactic Imperial Consortium continued to mount, whispers of rebellion spread through the galaxy. Species that had been ruled for thousands of years began to question their masters. Dr. Susan Miller stepped off her ship onto the neutral planet Nexus. As Earth's chief diplomat, she had been sent to meet with representatives from other alien species who had secretly reached out to humans. The meeting place was a small building hidden in thick forests, far from Imperial sensors. Inside, Susan found 7 different alien species waiting. Some had scales, some had fur, and others had skin that changed colors as they spoke. All looked nervous. "Thank you for coming," said a tall, thin alien with 4 eyes. "I am Krex of the Volnar people. We have served the consortium for 800 years. Susan nodded respectfully to each alien. "I bring greetings from Earth. We're glad you wanted to talk." "How do you do it?" asked another alien with bright red skin. "How do you defeat their ships? They have ruled the galaxy for so long. We thought it was impossible." "We think differently," Susan explained. "The consortium follows the same patterns they've used for thousands of years. They never change or adapt. They don't allow us to develop new technology," said Krex. "Any species that creates something new is punished. They say it's for galactic stability." Susan wasn't surprised. She had suspected this. "Tell me more about how the consortium controls your people." For hours, the aliens shared their stories. Susan learned that the ruling species of the consortium, the Arxer, kept other species weak on purpose. They limited their technology, restricted their education, and controlled their resources. "We believe we can help each other," Susan said when they had finished. "Earth wants to form a galactic alliance for freedom. All species would be equal. We would share technology and knowledge." The aliens looked at each other, a mix of hope and fear in their expressions. "The consortium would destroy us if they knew we were here," said one. "That's why we need to work together," Susan replied. "Alone, each of our species might fail. Together, we have a chance." By the end of the meeting, all 7 species agreed to join the alliance. Susan promised to send human experts to help them develop their own defenses and technology. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Frank Collins met with Earth's top scientists. They had made an important discovery about the Arxer, the leaders of the consortium. "We've analyzed their technology," said Dr. Lee, the head scientist. "It's not actually theirs. The Arxer didn't invent most of their advanced systems." "What do you mean?" Frank asked. Dr. Lee showed him ancient star charts and records they had found in captured Imperial ships. They conquered an advanced civilization thousands of years ago. They stole their technology and then erased all records of that species. "So the mighty Arxer are just thieves," Frank said. Dr. Lee nodded. "And they haven't created anything new in thousands of years. They'd been using the same stolen technology, just making small changes. That's why they fear innovation so much. They know they can't keep up." This discovery changed everything. Humans now understood why the consortium feared them so much. Humans created new things constantly. They adapted and improved. The Arxer couldn't match this creativity. Within months, the Galactic Alliance for Freedom grew as more species joined in secret. Human engineers shared their technology. Human soldiers trained Alliance fighters. Together, they began to push back against Imperial forces across the galaxy. In her office on Haven Colony, Susan read reports of new victories. Already, the consortium had lost control of a quarter of its territory. Half of its member species were now secretly supporting the alliance. "They ruled for thousands of years through fear and control," she told her staff. "But they never understood the power of cooperation and freedom." The consortium was beginning to crumble from within, and the Arxer still didn't understand why. 3 years after humans first met the aliens, the war had changed everything. The Galactic Imperial Consortium, once the unchallenged ruler of the galaxy, now controlled less than a third of its former territory. Half of its member species had joined the alliance led by humans. On the Arxer homeworld, Supreme Leader Thaxuler paced in his grand palace. Reports of defeats came in daily. Nothing in the ancient manuals of war prepared them for fighting humans and their allies. "We have no choice," he told his advisors. "We must negotiate peace." The advisors were shocked. The consortium had never negotiated with lesser species before. They always dictated terms. "How long will the peace process take?" one asked. "Our diplomatic protocols require years of preparation." Thaxuler handed him a message that had arrived that morning. It was short. "Tomorrow, Earth, 9:00 a.m. Pacific Time." "The humans don't follow protocols," he said bitterly. The next day, Thaxuler's ship landed outside the United Nations building in New York. He expected to meet only with human leaders, where he could use his superior experience to gain advantages in the negotiations. Instead, when he entered the Great Hall, he found representatives from every species in the galaxy, including those still officially loyal to the consortium. The room fell silent as he walked to his seat. President Warren stood at the podium. "Supreme Leader, thank you for coming. We are here to discuss the future of the galaxy." Thaxuler tried to look confident. "The consortium is willing to grant humans special status. You may keep your colonies and have a seat on our ruling council. In return, you will help us restore order to the galaxy." A murmur of disbelief spread through the room. After all that had happened, The Arxer still thought they could dictate terms. President Warren smiled politely. I think you misunderstand the situation. We are not here to join your consortium. We are here to accept your surrender. Surrender. Thaxular's voice rose. The Arxer have ruled for 10,000 years. We do not surrender to primitive species. Then perhaps you need to see something, the president said. She nodded to her staff, and the large screens around the room lit up. The screens showed recordings from the consortium's own archives. Videos of the Arxer destroying peaceful civilizations, records of them stealing technology and claiming it as their own, evidence of them deliberately keeping other species from advancing. These came from your own ships that we captured, President Warren explained. Your entire empire was built on lies and theft. Thaxular looked around the room. Every face, human and alien alike, watched him with the same expression. They knew the truth. These are our terms, President Warren continued. The consortium will be dissolved. All species will be free and equal. Technology will be shared openly. And a new galactic council will be formed, with representatives from every world. She placed a document on the table. These are the terms. They are not negotiable. For a moment, Thaxular considered refusing. But his military was defeated. His empire was crumbling. Even his loyal species were turning against him after seeing the evidence of the Arxer's crimes. With 4 trembling hands, he signed the Treaty of Earth. As the former Imperial delegation left, Admiral Henderson stood with Dr. Miller by a window. Do you think they'll actually follow the treaty? He asked. Susan smiled. They don't have a choice anymore. But more importantly, they don't understand what really happened. They think they lost because of our ships or weapons. They don't see that their real failure was their belief that controlling others makes you strong. In the years that followed, Earth became the center of a new galactic civilization. Not through conquest or dominance, but through cooperation and innovation. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years now worked together, building a future greater than any could have created alone. And the lesson spread across the stars. True strength comes not from controlling others, but from allowing everyone to reach their full potential. Humanity's laughter still echoed in the galaxy, but now it was joined by the voices of 100 other free species.